Well, ice cream helps me think. Therefore, ice cream, whether you do it or not, is a very important part of the sermon writing process. Which is why this story is so tragic. Friday, I was writing this sermon, bolstering that process, as I usually do, with a bowl of ice cream. I got writer's block. So naturally, I went to the freezer for another bowl of inspiration. But to my shock and to my dismay, the carton from which I had been eating would disappear. It was gone. It wasn't there. I started to panic. I started to look under the leftovers in the freezer, under those frozen peas in the corn that had been there for who knows how long. But there was no ice cream to be found until I opened the refrigerator door. And there my ice cream was, or I should say just plain cream. Dripping a river of chocolate from the top shelf all the way down, smothering my half-eaten chicken rotisserie in what looked like gravy. But the assault on my pride, it didn't stop there, because later in the afternoon, since I didn't have my ice cream, I needed to warm up some coffee for a little caffeine inspiration. So I went over to the microwave, I opened the door, and what did I find? Another cup of coffee, which I had put in on Thursday. Stone cold, still not drunk. Now, as I told this story, I heard some of you laughing. The reason, I presume, is that perhaps, just perhaps, no show of hands, you saw in your own life a common thread that runs through my life. And that is an occasional absent-mindedness, because we're just so darn busy. We're just so darn distracted. Laughter is the shortest distance between people, says Victor Borge. And he is right. Humor at its very best. It connects us as we were just connected there, laughing at ourselves. At least I hope, instead of just myself. Humor creates community. It provides a safe place in which we can discover our common ground, in which we together can embrace our common yet imperfect humanity. Humor melts our defenses, the walls by which we surround ourselves, which we erect between one another. It melts them enough so that we can see, and even others can see, the shortcomings that so often we try to hide from ourselves, from others. Shortcomings which we believe diminish our dignity. And having seen, having acknowledged our shortcomings through humor and sharing them, as I just did, perhaps it offers us inspiration to make the changes necessary in our lives to bring greater healing and wholeness. And that, all of that, is the very purpose of the book of Jonah. In the book of Jonah, God uses humor to show us something about ourselves which we can't or we don't want to see. We don't want to admit about ourselves. But God's hope is that seeing it and laughing at Jonah, seeing it in Jonah, his errors, his foibles, we then can begin to recognize the very same patterns in our own lives. And because we put our walls down, then we can be inspired to actually change them, to change our lives. So what are those issues that God wants us to see? Well, when God says, go to us, just as God said to Jonah sometime, we say no, just like Jonah. When God says, go, love your enemies, forgive those who have persecuted you, give them and give to all my message of compassion and healing. Offer to others, even your enemies, a second chance, a chance for redemption. And we say no. Or if we're feeling generous, something like, well, not yet, God. Not yet. The truth is, like Jonah, so often we run away from God, from God's call. The truth is, we seek retribution rather than restitution. We seek to bring hurt rather than healing to our adversaries, to our enemies. We seek more to be vindicated, proven right, than to be an agent of healing in God's reclamation of this world. And so how is that working out? For you, for me, for us, for the world, probably a lot like it did for Jonah. For when Jonah did all of these things, it brought calamity, not only to him, but to everyone else and everything else around him. When he boarded that ship to take him away from God, it brought calamity, near destruction to the ship, to the mariners on that ship that tried to help him, to their families if they had been lost. It almost brought his own destruction as those mariners finally figuring out why all of this was happening. They went up to Jonah and they threw him off the boat into the water. He was about to die until his salvation came from the most unlikely of places, a whale. Now there's a joke here which we don't get. And the reason we don't get it is because the joke is 3,000 years old. And things happen in 3,000 years. We start to miss the point. But it would not have been missed by those that heard this story the very first time. And here's the joke. The name Nineveh means house of fish. House of fish. Thus, a house-sized fish, which is, by the way, a metaphor for Nineveh, saves Jonah, even as Jonah refuses to save Nineveh, the house of fish. And isn't that the way things are? The very things that we detest are bringing our salvation. It's a joke, a godly joke. And then, having finally hit rock bottom in the belly of that fish, Jonah reluctantly agrees finally to follow God. Sometimes that happens in my life. I don't know if ice cream dripping down the fridge is a rock bottom belly kind of moment, but it felt like it in that moment. So finally, Jonah agrees reluctantly to do what God asks, to deliver God's message to his very own enemy, Nineveh. Nineveh, the place that Jonah has said is so awful it demands punishment. Nineveh, that awful place, all of a sudden becomes faithful, and they repent immediately. They listen to God. They follow God. They change their ways. And does it make Jonah happy? You see, prophets hope for this outcome. No other prophet in all the Bible gets this outcome, gets what they were sent to do, except Jonah. Is he happy? No, he's miserable. He's angry. In fact, he is so miserable, he asks God to kill him. Because it is worse, Jonah says, to live watching his enemies spare, transform into the faithful, rather than seeing them punished. So I ask again, this resistance, this running from the call, from the ways of God, how is it working for Jonah? How is it working for us when we act like Jonah? Not well. It invites calamity and destruction into our lives and into our world. It makes Jonah so miserable that all he wants to do is to die. And because God so desires that we do not do the same, God has offered us this story, a Jonah joke, so that we can see ourselves, and having seen ourselves, change ourselves and not end up like Jonah. God offers us this story that it may be a mirror through which and by which we can see ourselves, and we can see that which we don't really want to see. We don't really want to admit that we at times are like Jonah. But we don't have to be. We don't have to be. Remember, redemption awaits us just as it awaited Nineveh. No matter what we've done, no matter how much we've been like Jonah, no matter how far we have run from God, hope awaits us as it awaited the people of Nineveh. It is never too late to start a new path towards redemption. May this story, this Jonah joke, offer us the inspiration to make those changes. The changes necessary to heal and to bring healing to others. Even, I dare say, to our enemies. Because who knows? Maybe for us, just as it was for Jonah, when we offer that message of hope, that message of redemption, especially when we are most resistant to do so, maybe that is the very mechanism that brings us our salvation. For that is just the kind of joke that God loves to tell. Amen.